Parents have hopes for their children. They have dreams, expectations that can be shattered, though, when teenagers reveal they are gay. Families can be ripped apart. Adolescents find themselves homeless, turning to drugs, maybe prostitution to survive. In the next half hour, families will share their stories, and you'll hear from the people who are holding families together.
I was 15 years old, I came out. My mom and I got in an argument. She ripped me up by the back of my collar and threw me out of the house. I was expecting more of a motherly reaction, because that was my mom. I figured she'd always love me and I would be her son no matter what. I felt like it was the end of the world. I lost my mom.
I don't know of any experience that's more painful for a child than the parent severing their relationship with the child.
I think it sinks in on a really deep level and makes it hard to move forward with education and career decisions and relationship and family decisions. If there's always somewhere a nagging doubt, I'm unlovable, I'm worthless, I'm rejected.
At age 15 and homeless, Raymond Portillo's had limited options for survival.
I tried to apply for jobs under the table, but I guess the state's real strict on child labor laws and no one would hire me. I was 15 at the time. The state said I couldn't work, so I eventually found Balboa Park and became a prostitute to eat. I felt real dirty. There's some creepy people out there. I eventually taught myself to, shut something off inside me every time I did it, to become detached. Then I found drugs, and then that did it for me, and then just went all downhill from there. But I remember I was 15, I met this guy in the park. He was letting me stay with him for a little bit. He was 43, and he introduced me to meth. I didn't know what it was. I'd never done drugs in my life, and I did it, and all my worries went away. I didn't feel dirty anymore. I didn't feel unloved. I didn't feel unwanted. Everything was fine. I was on top of the world, but only for so long. I spiraled it out of control, and I was about 15 and a half living in a crack house in Hillcrest.
Of the LGBT teens that come out to their parents, roughly 1/4 are forced from their homes. At any one time, there are about 400 homeless adolescents in San Diego. Depending on the area, 25 to 40% of homeless teens identify as LGBT. With no other sources of income, these homeless youth frequently resort to petty theft, drug dealing, and prostitution. The element of crime creates additional burdens for law enforcement and the neighborhoods to which these youth gravitate. The terrible fear of being kicked out of their homes forces many teens to remain in the closet.
Children can be very afraid of telling their parents. In fact, they often tell siblings or peers at school before they'll tell parents and try to prepare for that.
So I think that most kids feel like it's going to be a risky thing to say anyway. But now when you're dealing with parents who have told this kid growing up, that gay people are evil and that it's sinful and that God is going to smite you if you are gay, that's pretty scary. I wouldn't want to tell my parents if that's how I'd been raised.
Jonathan Getz struggled with his identity, enduring the hostile environment that often exists at schools.
It was a lot worse before I came out of the closet, because when people would say that I was gay, I would say, no, I'm not. And so I was always on the defensive.
It's a really difficult thing to be a kid in school, even if you're perceived gay, even if you're not really gay. It's just, they're subject to taunting, to teasing. There are kids who've been beaten up.
I used to have things thrown at me. I got called fag, you name it, I was called it. It made me feel guilty for being gay.
It's I think the last acceptable thing that kids feel like they can tease about. They've gotten that you can't do it with race or religion. That's very taboo, but sexual orientation is still okay to tease about, I think.
Well, unfortunately, being on the receiving end of discrimination from others can really cause people a lot of problems. It can cause isolation. They may just not want to interact with their peers. That may lead to feelings of depression. even suicidality. Unfortunately, the suicide rate of gay and transgender teens is higher than that of non-gay or non-transgender teens. So that can be an issue as well. And if people are feeling not accepted and isolated, it can also put them at risk for substance abuse.
A recent study in the journal Pediatrics found that young people whose parents rejected them when they revealed their sexual orientation were more than 8 times as likely to attempt suicide and nearly 6 times more vulnerable to depression.
Because what it comes down to, after your parents abandon you, you have no self-worth. You don't love yourself for a while. You feel like you're not lovable, and you have no self-esteem. The way I looked at it was, if I died, I died. I truly never thought I'd live past the age of 18, to be honest with you, at the rate things were going.
But there are kids who have depression issues who in the LGBT community, again, because they don't feel accepted. And it's hard for me to see that, you know, as a teacher and as a parent, to see kids who just can't enjoy life because they've been told that what they are isn't okay.
I wouldn't have chosen to be gay. Being gay is such a hard lifestyle. Like, even when I lived with my mom my freshman year, I tried to commit suicide 3 times because I get picked on so much at school. And
I struggled with it a lot because it didn't fit into the plan that I had for myself. But the plan that I had for myself wasn't the plan that God had for me. I got really depressed because I wanted to be a pastor, and so everything that I had worked for or thought I was building up for, you know, just collapsed.
Jonathan was forced out of his school Bible club and dismissed from his church activities. The rejection resulted in severe depression.
Jonathan came close to dying. He attempted suicide several times. The last time was the most serious time.
Many of the problems LGBT teens develop stem from conflicts in their families.
Parental rejection is very, very difficult for teens to deal with. Teens look to their parents for support and nurturance, and having the people who, of everyone in the world, is supposed to care for you the most, reject you is one of the most painful experiences a child could go through.
Here you are with the person who's supposed to love you unconditionally through everything, telling you you're not worth anything or you're not good enough or what you are is wrong. And I don't know how that couldn't hurt you. It does. It really affects them, and it's very sad to see.